Cyclone, the linear tactical series. Written by Janie Crouch. Narrated by Tom Campbell. Chapter 1. Zac Mackay kept his body relaxed as he stared down the man standing 8 feet across from him, knife in hand. A guy who was undoubtedly going to rush him, arm upraised like Jason Voorhees in those slasher films, any second now. The other guy was bigger, beefier, and about 10 years younger than Zac's own 31 years. And he was a cocky bastard, oozing self-confidence since he was the one holding the knife. Zac knew the guy's name, but couldn't think of it right at this moment. It didn't matter. Anyone standing in front of him with the intent to harm him or the people he was protecting only had one name: enemy. Zac hadn't needed his 9 years in the army to teach him that. He'd learned it on the playground in elementary school. Zac gave enemy a little smile, then winked. That was all it took. Enemy flew at him, knife hand raised almost to eye level, weapon clenched in his fist, preparing to put his full strength behind the blow. Rookie move. The guy wanted to show off, so instead of coming straight down with the knife, he swung it crossways, looping to the left, obviously wanting to rip across Zac's chest rather than stab him. If Zac hadn't been ready for anything, now his special forces training coming into play, he would have been in a shit ton of trouble. Zac stepped to the right rather than left, angling his torso to the side. The blade came swooping across where he'd been standing half a second ago. Any other time, Zac might have played with enemy a little, shown him that his destroy-everything fighting style wasn't necessarily the best. Definitely not the smartest. But that wasn't why Zac was here right now. While the knife was still swinging downward, Zac took an unexpected half-step closer to the man, reaching one arm under his elbow and the other above his wrist. He put just enough force on the guy's arm to stop the motion. It wouldn't take much more pressure to snap enemy's wrist, grab the knife from his then numb fingers, and drive it into the softest spot of his throat. But that would be a little overkill, given this was only a demonstration about close-quarters fighting for some college guys, including enemy, who had paid to be here, and for Zac to teach them. Zac halted, but kept his grip firm for just a couple seconds, demonstrating his control of the situation. The knife dropped to the ground. Only then did Zac release the other man. Okay. Zac turned and faced the group that had been watching the whole scenario. That was at full speed, but we're going to break it down into much slower and more manageable pieces for today's workshop. He slapped enemy on the back. Thanks for volunteering. What's your name again, man? Brandon, the kid grunted. Brandon, right. He slapped Brandon on the back again. Thanks for trying to kill me with such exuberance. Everybody chuckled, and Zac managed to smile. Brandon had been using a practice knife with a hard rubber blade. It wouldn't have cut Zac if he'd gotten lucky with his swing, but it would have hurt like hell. Brandon's attack had its strengths and weaknesses, both of which we'll get to, but I want to start out with the most important aspect of close-quarters fighting. He reached down and picked up the practice knife, laying it on his palm and extending his arm toward the group. Anyone coming at you with a weapon with the intent to harm you is your adversary. To treat him as anything else is a mistake that can cost you the fight, or your life. Zac broke them off into sparring partners and went over some basic moves. It wasn't his favorite job here at Linear Tactical, but he didn't mind it, and it played to his strengths. Zac was good with people and at teaching. A lot of people, like poor Brandon, assumed because of Zac's surfer looks, light brown hair that had the slightest wave to it, blue eyes, easy smile, that he wasn't tough enough to teach the sort of training and services Linear provided. Things like rifle and pistol skills, self-defense, kidnapping deterrence, wilderness survival, hand-to-hand combat, and situational awareness. And those were just the beginner-level classes for civilians. The corporate security and law enforcement training Linear provided was much more involved and dangerous, because those situations called for it. But the people who worked at Linear were more than equipped to handle involved and dangerous. Zac had started the company with a group of his ex-Green Beret brothers, his best friends. They'd been trained to adapt, defend, and survive in almost every type of situation. Zac may look like a surfer, but he moved and thought like a soldier, a damn
Sample complete. Ready to continue?